Welcome to clawfa.
You can announce ambition in like a press release or craft a few beautiful sentences about a new era and just hit send.
Right. It's incredibly easy to make promises.
Exactly. It's so easy. But somebody has to actually pay for that ambition. Somebody has to defend it on a rainy Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
And eventually, when the beautiful plan hits a wall, somebody has to accept the blame.
Because, financial backing doesn't just change the caliber of players on the pitch, right? It completely rewrites the whole ecosystem of the club.
Totally.
Like, the injection of money changes exactly what managers are expected to deliver just to keep their jobs.
Right.
It dictates how patient owners can afford to be, how supporters judge even a minor slip in progress, and crucially, who becomes the scapegoat when a plan inevitably fails.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive into the clawfa. And the question we really need to ask is, when a club promises progress, who is taking the financial and reputational risk, and who receives the blame if it fails?
Yeah, and the historical articles and financial reports you shared with us give a really clear picture of how ownership models handle that immense pressure.
They really do. We're looking at three very different clubs, right?
Exactly, making completely different calculations. It basically boils down to whether a club is trying to quietly build a foundation or loudly maintain a spectacle or, rely on an institutional machine to just absorb the shock of failure.
So let's start with the club taking that massive, quiet gamble. We were looking at East London, Stepney FC.
Ah, yes. East London's honest strugglers.
Right. For decades, they fought with genuine tenacity. But outside of that brief period in 1989 with Diego Santia, visiting supporters largely ignored them.
Yeah, they were stuck in lower division obscurity for a long time.
Exactly. And even their 2003 promotion didn't really change their DNA.
No, it didn't. But the real shift, the moment the gamble actually began, was the 2018 stewardship change.
Right, when the new money arrived.
Yeah, fresh financial resources. But what makes them fascinating is what they chose not to do with that money.
They didn't chase the short-term spectacle.
Exactly. No flashy acquisitions to suddenly secure top-flight status. Instead, they placed their chips heavily on infrastructure investment and youth development.
Which brings us to Michael Adesanya. Looking at your notes, he is like the perfect embodiment of this new philosophy.
Oh, totally.
He's in a superstar they bought at his peak to sell shirts. He's the result of this very deliberate, methodical pipeline.
And it's a highly rational strategy. By pouring money into training facilities and elite coaching, the ownership is basically attempting to build a sustainable athletic engine.
It perfectly suits their working-class identity, too.
It really does. The supporters feel a deep sense of ownership over it. You hear it around Eastgate Park all the time, this feeling of, we learned how to belong.
Right.
They're building this foundation without all the typical tabloid noise that usually surrounds sudden risers.
But I gotta ask, isn't quiet progress almost a paradox in modern football?
That is the big question.
Can you really climb to the elite tier without anyone noticing?
Well, that is the exact risk they are running. The environment they operate in demands instant gratification.
Oh, definitely.
The mechanism of failure here isn't necessarily poor play. It's a deficit of patience.
Right, because fans get restless.
Exactly. If this slow and steady approach stalls even slightly, the ownership's complete lack of spectacle spending becomes a massive liability.
Because fans understand infrastructure in theory. But when they're losing on a cold Saturday, they don't cheer for a new training ground.
No, they want a marquee signing to distract them. But for now, Stepney is memorable because their ascent threatens nobody's sense of the natural order, simply because nobody was watching closely enough to notice.
Which is wild when you pivot from that quiet competence over to North London.
Oh, Welsford Athletic, a completely different world.
Yeah, the notes you shared on Welsford show a club that has essentially trapped itself in its own glamour.
The expectation trap. They've spent decades engineering this aesthetic of continental flair.
Right. Technical sophistication.
Exactly. It really took root with Patrice Leveille's arrival in 1981, which was this loud declaration that they could court world-class talent.
And then Marcus White carried that torch in the 2000s.
Delivering immediate silverware. The boardroom hasn't just promised victories, they've promised a star-making spectacle.
It's like throwing a lavish party every single week.
Yes.
It's incredibly fun at first, but eventually the sheer cost of keeping everyone entertained becomes a trap.
That is exactly it. Because of the tabloid obsession and that cosmopolitan crowd at Wakefield Park, acceptable progress just doesn't exist there anymore.
No, they're serial winners.
Right. They've transformed into a brand that transcends football itself.
You can hear it in how the fans view the game. They believe football should be brilliant, glamorous, and a little dramatic.
Which leaves the boardroom and the manager brutally exposed.
Because the pressure is suffocating.
Exactly. The expectation trap means ownership is under unyielding pressure to import world-class talent just to maintain the visual quality.
And the manager carries the impossible burden of making those expensive stars perform perfectly every week.
And when the spectacle dims, the manager is always the first one thrown overboard.
Listening to that nightmare, it makes me realize why Marlborough United is so heavily featured in your articles.
Oh, they are the absolute antithesis to Welsford.
Right. Despite being right in the heart of the pressure cooker in London's West End.
Yeah, they represent institutional stability, red brick respectability.
Roland Beaumont's 24-year reign is a huge part of that, right?
Massive, from 1985 to 2009. But it's not just the titles he won, it's the system he left behind.
Ruthlessly prioritizing systems over individual personalities.
Exactly. Marlborough insists every academy team plays the exact same tactical style as the first team.
Ironclad discipline.
Because the system is bigger than any one person, the institution absorbs the shock of a bad run.
So if Henrik Brandt, the current manager, loses 3 matches in a row, the supporters don't demand he be fired. They don't demand a new superstar. They just view it as a temporary glitch in a proven machine.
Marlborough protects the managers by refusing to panic.
Right. They know dynasties are measured in decades, not seasons.
Okay, but I have to push back on that slightly. Is Marlborough's patience a luxury that only old money can afford? Or is it a system any club could replicate if they had the discipline?
I mean, it requires immense financial stability to ignore outside noise, sure.
Right.
But the discipline itself is a choice. Their key decision is their commitment to academy development and building managers gradually.
Trusting the pipeline rather than the transfer market.
Exactly. And their supporters remain totally untroubled by the drama around them. They rest entirely on the belief of proper football, properly run.
So let's pull these threads together and compare them directly.
We need to answer 3 questions based on your notes. Which club is taking the smartest risk? Which club has created the most dangerous expectations? And which club has the least room for failure?
Well, smartest risk is definitely Stepney.
Yeah.
Upgrading training grounds and academies gives them a lasting foundation and most dangerous expectations. Welsford holds that crown effortlessly.
Oh, hands down.
Winning ugly is considered a catastrophic failure of their brand.
The logic there is sound. But when we look at that third question, which club has the least room for failure, I actually look straight at Welsford.
Wait, really? No, I strongly disagree with that.
But look at their identity. They aren't
Yeah.
just a club. They are a luxury fashion brand.
Sure, but
And the center of that brand is Tobias Renouf. He is a precarious generational talent.
yes, he's important, but
If he departs, it's like losing their lead designer. A failure to hold on to him could plunge them straight into historical nostalgia. They have no room to get this wrong.
okay, but the financial reports you included don't support that level of dread. Stepney actually has the least room for error.
How so?
Because Welsford has international magnetism. They can literally buy their way out of a slump by acquiring a new superstar to replace Renouf.
I mean,
They have a massive commercial safety net. Stepney doesn't.
but you can't always buy your way out of a broken identity. If the magic is gone, the money eventually dries up.
But being terrified of losing glamour is very different from being terrified of irrelevance. Stepney's margin for error is razor thin. But, regardless of who is facing the big drop, this brings us back to the main theme of ownership and responsibility.
Right.
The boardroom sets the parameters. They decide whether to build a quiet machine or a loud spectacle. And at the end of the day, money determines the choices.
It really does. The ambition is free, but the consequences are incredibly expensive. As we wrap up this deep dive into the clawfa, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah.
If a club's identity is entirely built by its boardroom's bank account, what happens to the supporters when the money decides to change its mind?